The knock came at 6:14 in the morning. I know the exact time because I'd been awake since 5, sitting at my kitchen table with cold coffee and a silence that felt too heavy for a Tuesday. When I opened the door, I didn't see my sister. I saw a car pulling away, taillights disappearing around the corner, like a secret being swallowed by the dark. And on my doorstep, sitting in a car seat with a yellow blanket tucked around her, was Lily, 3 years old, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing, eyes wide open, watching me like she already knew the world had shifted beneath her feet. There was no note, no bag, no explanation, just a child and the sound of an engine fading into nothing. I picked her up without thinking. She didn't cry. She just pressed her face against my neck and held on with both hands, the way children do when they've already learned that letting go costs too much. I stood in my doorway for a long time. Then I closed the door behind us. And that's when my phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "She needs you. You'll figure it out." I didn't respond to my mother's text that morning. I made Lily oatmeal instead. Found a spare toothbrush under the sink. Ran a bath, washed her hair, and listened to her hum a song I didn't recognize. Something soft and made up, the kind only children invent when they're trying to comfort themselves. She ate every bite, asked for more. I watched her and felt something crack open in my chest that I couldn't name yet. My sister Danielle and I had never been close, not in the way people mean when they say that word. We existed in the same family, the way two tenants share a building. Polite, distant, occasionally in the same hallway. She'd had Lily young. No father in the picture. Our parents had quietly made their disappointment known, and then just as quietly stepped back from helping. That pattern, this stepping back, was something I knew well. I'd spent my entire adult life watching my family decide that hard things were other people's problems. I called my mother at noon. She answered on the 4th ring. "Did Danielle say anything to you?" I asked. A pause. Then, she said she needed a break. A break. I held the phone against my ear and let that word sit there. Turned it over. Examined it from every angle. My sister had left her 3-year-old daughter on a doorstep before sunrise and called it a break. "How long?" I asked. She didn't say. "Where is she?" Another pause. Longer this time. The kind that means someone is deciding how much truth to offer. "We don't know exactly." I looked across the living room at Lily, who was sitting on my floor carefully lining up the few things she'd had in her car seat. The rabbit, a small board book, a plastic spoon she refused to put down. Building a little world out of almost nothing. "Mom." My voice stayed level. "Did you know she was going to do this?" The silence that followed answered before she did. "We thought it would be temporary," she finally said. "A few days. You've always been the responsible one, Mara. You've always handled things." There it was. Not a compliment. A designation. The one who handles things doesn't get asked. She gets informed. I told my mother I had to go. Then I sat on the floor next to Lily and didn't move for a long time. 10 days passed. No call from Danielle. No text. No location. Nothing. My parents checked in twice, both times to ask how Lily was adjusting, never once to ask how I was managing. I had rearranged my entire life in 10 days. Moved my home office to the bedroom. Bought a toddler bed, winter clothes 2 sizes up, a nightlight shaped like a moon because Lily wouldn't sleep without one. I did all of it alone. And I said nothing. On day 11, I called a family law attorney. Her name was Patricia Chun. She had a quiet office and a direct way of speaking that I immediately respected. I laid out every detail. The doorstep. The taillights. My mother's text. The silence that followed. Patricia listened without interrupting. Then she set down her pen. "You understand," she said carefully, "that what your sister did has a legal name." I nodded. "Abandonment," she said. "And you have grounds, strong ones." I felt something settle inside me. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Something colder and more deliberate than either of those. "I want full custody," I said. "And then I want a file against her." Patricia looked at me steadily. "Then let's begin." I told no one. Not my parents. Not the 2 friends who occasionally checked in. Not the neighbor who'd noticed the toddler bed being carried through my front door and raised an eyebrow. I went about everything quietly, methodically, the way you dismantle something structural, carefully, so nothing collapses before you're ready. Patricia filed the emergency custody petition first. Temporary guardianship was granted within the week. The court appointed a child advocate for Lily, a soft-spoken woman named June who visited twice and left both times with notes I never got to read. Lily started calling me Mama Mara. I didn't correct her. At night, after she fell asleep under her moon nightlight, I would sit at my kitchen table, the same place I'd been sitting the morning she arrived, and go through every document Patricia sent. Signing. Initialing. Building the case line by line. My parents called on a Thursday evening. My father this time. His voice carried that particular tone he reserved for moments when he needed something but didn't want to ask directly. "Your sister reached out to us," he said. My hand stopped moving across the page. "She wants to come home." I said nothing. I just kept signing. Danielle came back on a Saturday. I knew because my mother called at 8 a.m., voice bright in a way that felt rehearsed. "She's home, Mara. She's doing better. She just needed time to reset." The word reset landed like something absurd. Like my sister had been a device that needed rebooting, not a mother who had left her child on a doorstep in the dark. "That's good," I said. "We thought maybe Sunday dinner. Bring Lily. Let them reconnect." "I'll think about it," I said. I didn't go to Sunday dinner. Instead, I forwarded Patricia the documentation she'd been waiting for. Danielle's phone records my mother had unknowingly confirmed by mentioning specific dates, the neighbor's written statement about the morning of, the text message screenshot reading, "She needs you, you'll figure it out." Patricia called Monday morning. "The abandonment filing is ready," she said. "Once this is served, she'll know everything." "Serve it," I said. Danielle was served on a Wednesday afternoon at my parents' house. While they were all sitting at the same kitchen table where every difficult conversation in our family had been quietly buried for 30 years. My mother called me 7 times that evening. I answered none of them. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Pale walls. Fluorescent light. The kind of room that makes everything feel equally serious regardless of what you brought into it. Danielle sat across the aisle with a court-appointed attorney she'd met twice. She looked thinner. Her hair was pulled back. She wouldn't look at me directly, but I felt her trying to, small sideways glances she'd pull back the moment I stayed still. My parents sat behind her. My father's jaw was tight. My mother had her hands folded in her lap, like she was sitting in church. Patricia stood beside me and said everything that needed saying. Dates. Documentation. Testimony from June, the child advocate, who described Lily's adjustment, her attachment to me, her stability. Then the judge looked at Danielle. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked. "Full legal and physical custody transferred. Your parental rights significantly limited pending review. Do you understand?" Danielle's voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "Yes." The judge signed. I felt nothing dramatic in that moment. No surge. No relief. Just a quiet clicking into place, like a door finally closing on a room that had been open and drafty for years. Then I looked at my parents. Outside the courthouse, the air was cold and clean. Lily was with June for the morning. I had told her I had an errand to run. She'd handed me her one-eared rabbit before I left, pressed it into my hands without explanation, the way she did sometimes, like she was lending me something important. I held it the entire drive there. My parents found me on the courthouse steps. My mother's eyes were red. My father looked like a man who had just watched something he'd built slowly come apart. "You didn't have to do it this way," my mother said. I looked at her for a long moment. "You texted me at 6 in the morning," I said quietly. "You told me to handle it. So I did." Neither of them said anything after that. I drove home, picked up Lily from June's, and took her to the park. She ran toward the swings without hesitation, arms out, completely unafraid, and I sat on the bench watching her and felt, for the first time in months, something that resembled peace. She didn't need rescuing anymore. Neither did I. When the judge had asked Danielle if she understood, she nodded. I simply nodded too, to myself, quietly on the inside.